welcome back to model the very last part of our toy train, and that's going to be the cow catcher that sits on the front, pushes the cows off the track. Alright, before I start modeling, I'm going to clean up the fact that I've got some of these other planes visible that I don't want to see. I think, can I right click on this to hide? Yep, hide all planes, hide plane 8. I could kind of hide each individual one, or I could say hide all planes. Alright, now doing a moment of kind of comparison between the drawings for the body and inspecting the hole distances, etc., and the cow catcher. I've determined that the underside, the bottom of the cow catcher and the underside of the train will be flush. That's kind of comparing the distance between the centers of the holes here on the body and the centers of the pegs that are on the cow catcher. So, just kind of investigating these distances with, if I scroll down to the cow catcher, okay, with these distances, like right here. Okay, so that's been done and understood, so you can agree with that, or you can investigate and look at it yourself. So knowing that, though, I'm going to start modeling using the work plane that represents the bottom of the train body, because the bottom of this cow catcher is going to be the same. So what I have here, understanding the kind of my strategy for modeling this part, is that the top of this cow catcher is horizontal as well as the bottom, and the shapes are similar but they're not the same. They are these kind of non-regular pentagons. There's 5 sides, and we're going to use the loft tool, so we're going to sketch the bottom one and the top one. Now the bottom one, let's see, where do I have, what am I thinking? Kind of down here, even though I'm not looking at the bottom face. I've got some key dimensions here that are going to help me understand the bottom. This little distance, the 1/4 inch, this 1 inch, the 0.9, it appears that it goes to the middle, and we're getting some dimensions for the top right here as well as right here. So we're going to use this, and then here's the distance between the two. But basically we're going to try to sketch that pentagon for the bottom, do an offset plane that 0.75 inches up, and do this pentagon, and then we will do a loft to connect the two. We'll come back later and then do these little extrude cuts. We'll shell out the inside, etc. Okay, so let's start again with the bottom. Okay, so a new sketch plane on the bottom. Here you go. And if I try to click along here, it's not latching on because it hasn't projected, but maybe I'll do it off to the side and then I'll snap it back in a second. So the general shape is something like it wants to, I see that highlighting orange. Well, parallel is fine. Okay, so it's going to be something like this. I do want that to snap to that as well. Can I get both? Yes. Okay, so let's add our dimensions. We go back to our drawing and understand on the bottom we've got from the back to the very front is going to be an overall 1 inch. So we can add that from here to here. I do expect that it's going to be symmetrical, right? So let's use the equal constraint and say that this length has to equal this length. All right. This little distance here we said was a 1/4 inch. It's right here. All right. The overall width back here, they actually show you right here is 1.8, which is our 0.9 doubled. Okay, and I'm turning off by hitting escape the dimension tool, and I'm going to try to grab this point and make sure that it doesn't the shape doesn't change. Pretty much if I have the shape fully constrained to itself, if I try to grab the points and the lines, it really should just move the whole thing. So what I've done at this point is I've kind of constrained it as a shape, but I haven't located it. So next I would want to locate this and kind of get it to snap on here. So one thing I could do is I could use the coincident constraint and make a point have to sit on like one of these lines. I've got some features that are showing up there, that are being grabbed. That should be the midpoint, right? Let's do this. Let's create a point at the midpoint along there. Okay, and then let's find a point here to be in the midpoint here, and then let's just use the coincident constraint and have that point match up with that point. Is it going to work the way I want? That point's actually not even where I want it. So, all right, let me project. Can I get, no, let's project this front edge. And then let's use the point tool and find the middle right there. And coincident constraint, I should be able to get that point to lock onto that point. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to accept that sketch, and that's done. That represents the bottom of the cow catcher in the correct location. Okay, so from there we're going to do a offset plane that's going to be 0.75 higher. So I'm going to choose my plane tool. It's already to offset, and I'm going to choose the underside of the train body. I'm going to reverse the direction since it went down. I'm going to go up, and we're going to go up 0.75. That's because on the drawing sheet we saw that is the distance between the top and the bottom. Alright, and this will be my new sketch plane. And it's basically the same shape, okay, but on top it is a little shorter. You can see that this tapers in, okay, so this is not as long. This little distance here is the same 0.25. Notice this says 0.25 typical, so that is expected to be the same. Our overall distance this way, though, is shorter. So not only does it taper in side to side, but it's tapering in on the front. Alright, so I can, let's see, project geometry. Let's grab, no, because it's going to be back here. Excuse me, I had to hit pause for a second. Alright, so let's make our shape again. Let me actually project that edge so that I can kind of latch onto it. So we're going to come out. It doesn't find that, that's okay. And let's make this rough shape. And let's go and add some dimensions. So this is going to be 0.25. Let's use the equal constraint to say that this needs to be equal to this, and this needs to be equal to this, and the overall length of this, I believe, is 1.2. We'll go back and confirm real quick. Yep, see this 0.6 from that edge to the center, so we're going to double that. And then this overall distance here is 0.75. So from here to here. Alright, so I think the reason why it's blue is because it's not located, so it can still slide. So I'm going to slide it out to the side for a second, use the point tool to find the midpoint, and then let's use the coincident constraint to make that point latch onto the middle, and there you go. Alright, so we've got our two sketches. We're going to connect those with the loft tool. Alright, the loft tool is right here, transitions between two shapes. This is going to be a new shape, so profile 1 is right here. Alright, and I think I can just go ahead and click the next profile. It should be expecting that. There you go, boom, done. We don't want it to add. It kind of flipped to add again, so I'm going to go back to new. This is going to be a new part, and then green check that. And I'll scroll down here to the bottom of my Part Studio, right click on that, and we'll rename this the cow catcher. Okay. Now, let's go back to the drawing and kind of look at this. So you can see from this drawing that it's been shelled out. I wanted to zoom in, it moved. One thing I can see is that the thickness here, 0.05, is different than the thickness here, which is 0.1. So that tells me that they actually shelled first and then did this extrude cut later. So when they shelled the inside out, they would have been left with the 0.1 everywhere. And then from that shell that's left, they did that extrude cut and removed, and that's why it's thinner here. If you did the extrude cut first and then shelled it, you'd have a more uniform thickness everywhere. So let's try to use the shell tool. Is it right here? So shell thickness, 0.1. I'm going to choose the part and the faces to remove. We're going to click that. It's that easy. Alright, so next up we are going to put a sketch on this face. Press N to turn it normal, and I'm going to do the offset tool from that profile. It's a 0.1 typical offset. Can I move that in? Yep. There you go. We're going to extrude. We're going to say remove. Change the depth to, was it 0.05? Yep. That's, well, okay, our shell is 0.1. They're showing the shell that's left over, but 0.05 and 0.05 would add up to our 10th. So we're going to take away 0.05. So we're on remove, a depth of 0.05, and it should go in the correct distance. Here we go. Now I can bring my midplane back and I can mirror that instead of having to do it again. Let's go way back and let's see. Here's the first time I used a mirror, so the plane above it is my midplane. I'll turn that back on. I think I could also have just hit P, kind of hides and unhides all my planes, so if I can find that midplane. So let's do the mirror. And when we mirror, we're not going to mirror a part, we're going to mirror a feature. And so that feature is going to be that. And then the mirror plane is going to be my midplane. And I get a preview and it looks correct, so I'll green check that to accept it. I can press P to hide all those planes again. Alright, now the last thing that I can't see is that on the back of the cow catcher, I'm supposed to have these little tabs. So I've got to make them, and the location of them needs to line up with the holes on the train body. So how about we go ahead and actually hide the cow catcher. Seems a little weird, but I'm going to put a new sketch here, and I'm going to project geometry of these circles. Let me get the circle on the inside actually, because I want the whole circle. Where I was only getting an arc by going on the outside, and I'm projecting, so it's bringing it onto that sketch. So there you go, and let's accept that, and then let's extrude. Okay, those, and I'm going to go back to my drawing and understand the distance that these stick out. Somewhere they should give that to me. That locates it, but I've already got them located. Where can I see? Right here. Okay, so in this view, these extension lines coming up and help me understand how far out those stick. So it's just 1/8 of an inch typical. So my extrusion is going to go backwards, kind of into those holes, 1/8 of an inch. And here's the thing, we're not creating new parts. We're going to add this to, so down here, instead of the train body, it kind of thinks the train body. We're going to clear that, and our merge scope is going to be the cow catcher. Alright, now I'm going to turn the cow catcher on so it's visible, and I'm going to hide the train body, And we're going to look around at the back of the cow catcher, and you can see that part of the, even though I had it invisible, it added that to me. So it's really cool. All right. Now the other little thing was that there was a chamfer on the end. Right? You see that it's kind of a concentric circle. So lets me know there's a feature there, and I see that it was a 0.01 chamfer. So let's go turn our chamfer tool on. Let's make that 0.01, and then let's go add those edges. Here you go. That is the last part. It's shelled. I've got my tabs on the back. They're chamfered, and we have completed every part of the train, and it looks like it's assembled, even though this is technically not the assembly view. So next up, we'll start working on the assembly. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you appreciated that the purpose of this was not to model the train for the first time. Those of you that I'm really working with, this was to try to get you to use Onshape if you had used Inventor before. So I hope you like Onshape. I hope you keep messing around with it. You know, there's people definitely have their preferences in CAD programs. Often it has to do with which one you started to learn first. But there are multiple CAD programs out there. In reality, you know, if you learn good principles of using CAD, a lot of times those will transfer to other programs. And so and sometimes you learn little tips and tricks in one that maybe you hadn't thought of when using the other, but maybe when you go back to using another platform, you kind of have a slightly different approach. And those of you that really want to be engineers and use CAD a lot, I would embrace learning a different platform, because it will only challenge you to think differently when using maybe your primary one. And also know that you may go through high school and college and have used one, and then take a job with a different employer who really wants you to be using a different platform, a different program, say going from Autodesk Inventor to SolidWorks. And those companies most likely will work with you and try to provide additional training, you know, to get you up to speed on the software that they're trying to use. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed using Onshape and stretching yourselves to use a different platform. Take care.